Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum. Straight talk about you and your money. Now from the BizTalk studios, here is Gary Kaltbaum.
And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. I'm Gary Kaltbaum, your host. Hey, thanks for being with us today. Glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy that you are listening. It is the 12th of June, 2024. Hope you're having a good day. Let me get past the introduction, and then we're going to get right into it. Got to cover a few things we haven't covered in a while. If you do not get this radio show in your city, we'll post it at GaryK.com. We'll also post it on our Twitter feed as well as a bunch of podcast apps. No, really. And if you don't follow us on Twitter or X, you should. And if you want to email us, just be nice. And in case you don't know, this is serious talk on everything that affects you. Your money, the markets, your job, your industry, everything else under the sun. We have no bias, no agenda, no ulterior motive. We take on all comers. And there's a lot of comers out there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. In case you don't know, today was a Fed day, when the central bank meets for 2 days and then announces what they're going to do with interest rates. Those that follow this, and if they watch listen to financial radio and pundits and TV and stuff, you hear this question 1,000 times. Is the Fed going to lower rates? What is the Fed going to do? When are they going to do it? How much are they going to do it? And we've said to you, they don't matter. And we get no real coverage of that. I say it all the time on TV, but it gets passed because the next person gets asked, what's the Fed going to do? And I've put the question out there for a long time, what do they do anyhow for you? They don't affect you. They don't affect your industry. They don't affect your job unless they are doing something they were never supposed to do. And that's out of thin air, print money. I don't know when we I actually do, and I'll get to that in a second, but how did we get to the point where one person can print out of thin air trillions of dollars? Well, in case you don't know, it really all started with who I call Ground Zero Mr. Bubble number one, Ben Bernanke. Let me explain. A bunch of crooks, and they know who they are. I would say it to their faces. A bunch of crooks on Wall Street committed massive fraud, as well as took ridiculous risk beyond the beyond, and they lost their asses to the point where Merrill Lynch, Wachovia, Countrywide Financial, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, Citigroup would have been going out but got saved. And there were some others. And what did our central bank do at the time to save the day? As we have told you, there's this huge kissing of the arse between D.C. and Wall Street. So D.C. saved the crooks. And how did they save them? With our money. $800 billion of our dollars were handed over to a bunch of crooks that committed massive fraud and took ridiculous amounts of risk on these things called mortgage-backed securities. They gave the crooks our tax dollars, and we got nothing for it. There were people that took bad loans off of their books before earnings and put them back on after earnings. There were people that leveraged mortgage-backed securities 5 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1. There were people like Goldman Sachs that came up with mortgage-backed security products and then sold them and then shorted it immediately because they knew how crappy they were. You have rating services that somehow got to stay in business, even though it is well known because there were texts and emails between people there that they were rating things that should have been triple Z as triple A. And the house was coming down. So what did Ben Bernanke do? And what did the politicians do? They came to us and said, we need to save the day. And they did it with $800 billion of our dollars. Oh, but don't worry. What else happened? Ben Bernanke starts printing money out of thin air and flashing it out for everybody except us. And these people on Wall Street got saved by the central bank. And these sleazy, slimy, scummy politicians, by the way, have you seen how many people on Wall Street become in the administration treasury secretaries or something in that realm and then go back to Wall Street and make millions? It's a cesspool. So Bernanke started printing money. And you know what Bernanke said when he started printing money? And I'm paraphrasing. Oh, this won't last a while. This won't last too long. We'll get rid of it. Well, they never did. You know why? If I gave you an unlimited credit card, would you ever want to shut it down? Hell no. He used it as an unlimited credit card, and he just printed and never turned back the clock. Fast forward to Jay Powell, who made Bernanke look like a nothing, because Jay Powell only cared about the stock market. Don't believe what somebody says, ladies and gentlemen. Watch what they do. You ever hear that line? Forget what they say, watch what they do. Forget what they say, watch what they do. And Jay Powell was very upset at the end of 2018 that the market was taking a crap. So he changed his stance on raising rates and said we won't anymore, and the market turned around. And then the market started coming down again. All of a sudden, he's going to lower rates, even though the economy's strong. He didn't want the market going down. And then he lowered rates again when the market waffled again. And then he lowered rates a third time. And then the market still wasn't listening. He announces printing of money, even though we had 3% GDP and like 3.5%, 4% unemployment. What the hell's going on here? And then we got to COVID. And he prints to $9 trillion. Now, I know that's just a word, trillion. I know it's just a number, trillion. It's gargantuan. And we warned you here. And we still get no credit. But we don't care. But we warned you here and said to you, boy, we're going to get a crap load of inflation. And I said to you why. If you look up the cause of inflation, there's a line that says too much money chasing too few, fill in the blank. Print it to $9 trillion. And guess what we got? We got massive inflation. And while he printed to $9 trillion, he also took rates to zero. What did that do to you? It screwed you, Aunt Mary and Uncle Bob, your savings. Remember, you were getting 3% and 4% on your savings. You got zero. You got zero because of one man's whims. And then what did it do? We told you what it would do. Bubbles. We got bubbles up the wazoo. The meme stocks, the SPACs, the marijuana stocks. All kinds of crazy valuation on IP. You name it, NFTs. And then the inflation hit, as we told you. And as usual, since Jay Powell is not elected, he's selected, no blame. They got blamed for being wrong because they don't know what they're doing. We keep hearing they're in control. Control of what? So when inflation was picking up, and we're on this show every day and saying inflation's picking up, it's going to worsen. We're on TV saying it, nobody's listening. Well, inflation got out of hand, but they were dragged into changing their stance. They called it transitory. They look like idiots that they are. And I'd say it to their face, by the way. They're idiots. They don't know what they're doing. Up next, we'll bring it to today. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
Hi, I'm Gary Kaltbaum, host of the nationally syndicated radio show Investor's Edge. We're not just handsome radio people. We manage investors' money for a living, specializing in fee-based discretionary money management. No big commissions, just a fee on the assets that's managed. We also provide a full range of personalized services, including retirement planning, fixed income, and educational needs, all to assist you in achieving your financial goals. Understanding not all individuals have the same needs, we'll carefully evaluate your personal goals to determine a proper investment strategy. If your current approach to investing is not getting you to where you would like to be, call us to make an appointment for a complimentary portfolio review. The number to call is 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. Investment advisory services offered through Kaltbaum Capital Management.
It's time to switch on the integrator units and get the brain cells working.
You're listening to
Hey, this promises to be fun.
Investor's Edge
The last bastion of quality programming.
with Gary Kaltbaum.
It doesn't get better than this.
So, him and Janet Yellen and poor Biden. It's transitory. Don't worry, it's not going to get bad. And of course it picked up, and then what did they do? They lied. That's what they're good at, Biden. Oh, it's now the Putin price hike. Even though we said it was transitory for 6 months, it's now Putin's fault. You know, they lie for a living. So finally, they realized, holy crap, how stupid can we be? So they had to adjust. And how did they adjust? Well, you can't keep rates at 0%. Why? Because the market was yelling. You know what the market was doing? The free market. He couldn't print money anymore to control the markets. So the yields were going up on their own. Why were yields going up on their own? Because he couldn't control them anymore. When you printed $9 trillion, that's when you matter. That's when you matter. And then he had to play catch up. And he did. Kept raising rates and raising rates and raising rates. And raising rates. But all he was doing was catching up to the free market. The markets were yelling and screaming. So the 10-year yield, which is the most important part of the equation, finally found a place. And it's in the fours. But every day, all I keep hearing, what's Jay Powell's next move? And I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't matter. And I'll be on tomorrow. They'll ask me, when do you think they're lowering rates? And I'll say, it doesn't matter. Because the 10-year yield is at 4.295 at the close today. And that's what matters to your mortgages and so many other things. And the Fed's at 5.25. If anything, they're way behind. And who knows what repercussions will come from that. And remember what other distortions they created. The 3-7. They screwed you on your savings, but you were getting mortgages at 3% if you were buying a place. And who the hell wants to sell a house with a 3% mortgage if you're going to trade it in for a 7? So there's no inventory. And that forced prices up. And what did that do? People couldn't afford homes. So there was no movement in the housing market. And then what happened because of the distortions? People went to rent. And so many people went to rent, it forced up rent. And people couldn't afford to rent. Distortions. Up the freaking wazoo. Distortions. And therein lies why I don't understand why they continue to worry about what this guy does when all I want him to do is nothing. If the central bank died today and went out of business, no problem would come of it. If the central bank went by the dodo bird, no problems would come from it. They are meaningless. They don't matter because they are now way behind. That's it. But every day it's what are they going to do? And we, the people, is what we've been telling you. 160 million of us go to work every day. We're the economy, not a guy sitting behind the desk and whether he's going to lower rates a quarter point or a half point or do this or do that. And it is so nauseating to me. Nauseating. That we got to continue to listen to this crap. That was today. Just letting you know. Welcome to this government takeover of our lives via central banks printing of money and jerking things around. And what was the other part they did? Enable. The word enable. That's the other part. When you take rates to zero, you enable massive amounts of debt. Why do you enable massive amounts of debts? When you rig yields so low, the people that want to issue debt are going to do a lot more. And guess what happened? Bingo. We're at $35 freaking trillion of debt, growing leaps and bounds. You've got a Marxist control freak running the country that will look into the camera and say, I've lowered the debt and deficits, while he's running a $2 to $3 trillion deficit this year, while they tell us Trump is a liar. Which, by the way, he is. But Trump is a piker when it comes to lying compared to this guy. And now $1 trillion a year plus go to interest on that debt, not on the roads and the bridges and the streets and the grid and the elderly and the children and the infirm, but to interest. And these scummy economists that are in the tank are out there saying, well, it's the percentage of the GDP. No, it isn't. These are hard dollars. These are real dollars that are going down the chute because of it. It is the complete abuse of you and I. With some areas worse than others. Look what the hell is going on in California. They're insane there. And look what Biden's trying to do now. It's spend first, wealth tax. Raise the capital gains tax, the long-term capital gains tax. An unrealized tax, you don't sell your asset, but if it went up during the year, you got to tell them and pay taxes. This is sinister. Get rid of the Trump tax cuts and say it'll only affect people above 400,000 when Trump tax cuts were for everybody from $1 and lie about it? This all intertwines with everybody's worried about what the Fed's going to do. You know what I'm worried about? A couple of weeks ago, I said, I want to hear from all you about your industry. Send me an email. Let me know how good your industry's doing. How's your job? What's going on? That's what I'm worried about. The real world. If you're in the boating industry, you're selling a lot of boats. If you're in the housing industry, how's it going? But no, one man behind the desk. Up next, Crazy Market. We'll have it all. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
Listening to
America is talking.
Investor's Edge.
He's got to be pleased with that. The crowd is just on its feet here. He's a Cinderella boy.
With Gary Kaltbaum.
Comes highly recommended. You're going to feel better if you talk to him.
If I told you the Dow was down 35 today, but the market had a fabulous day. Well, my area of the market had a fabulous day. That's what happened today. Don't ask me why. We just follow the bouncing ball. What do I mean? Remember we told you yesterday, what did we do with you yesterday on Apple? We said, well, we're just letting you know, we're going to just describe it for you. Apple broke out on monstrous volume above an 11-month trading range. The longer the base, typically the better the move, but Apple is a very low beta name. We'll see how it goes. Apple hit 220 today. It was up 13 at one time, did finish up 6. But for an Apple to move that much in such a short period of time, holy crap. Up Microsoft, another big one, up 8 and change. Huh? The NASDAQ 100, up 1.4%. And it'll be up tomorrow morning also. I'll explain in a second. The semiconductor holders, SMH, up 3%. And it'll be up a little bit tomorrow morning. We'll explain in a minute. KLAC up 30, Lam Research up 38, Micron up 6, Taiwan Semi up 7. NVIDIA up 42. It's up $4.20 some odd cents before the split. Qualcomm up 7. And the list goes on and on. A semiconductor, artificial intelligence, technology, free-for-all today. With one added thing. You know one area we've been telling you be careful about, and for good reason. They're waking up a lot of the software stocks, led by Microsoft, of course, the big guy. With the Dow down 35, the NASDAQ was up 264. Holy crap. And the NASDAQ 100 up 254. Holy crap. Just letting you know. Between Apple and Microsoft, we're talking about 80 some odd Dow points, and they were better. And then we get the aftermarket. Again, this comes under the heading of wow. And what do we mean by wow? We have been telling you about semiconductors and how companies reporting flat earnings, down earnings, but they keep going up. We reported to you yesterday about Oracle. Oracle announced a 2% drop in earnings and just 3% growth of sales, a major deceleration of both, but they mentioned artificial intelligence 7,000 times, and the stock was up 13% today, and this is a big cap stock. So Broadcom, by the way, a name I would have been buying in the last couple of days if not for earnings, they report earnings. And we're not making this up when we tell you. Broadcom announces $10.96. Up a whopping 5% earnings growth. Oh, but they announced a 10-for-1 stock split. The stock is up because of the stock split, $135 in the aftermarket, which is only about 8%, but for a big cap is a lot. So the semis won't be unhappy tomorrow morning. The good news for us, we park our carcass in the areas that are just, phew. What else benefited today? Well, I forgot to mention we had an inflation number that they tell us was better than expected. Okay. Don't worry, we will not get any bad reports into the election from our government. Do not forget that. The yield went down more than a point to 4.295, so guess what bounced pretty good today? Housing related, but way off the highs. So I'm not so sure they're going to get going. You got better tone today in some of the economically sensitive, but one of my favorite names is United Rentals. It was up $40 today and finished down $3. What's with that? So let's just say narrow as all hell. The good news is it's in our wheelhouse. We don't know how long it lasts or how far it goes, but it is getting even more a technology / semiconductor / artificial intelligence, and we'll throw in better software now. Dow down 35. The S&P was up the equivalent of 300 points. Why? Technology. Huge technology in the S&P versus the Dow. And if you look at the Dow, I got 3, 4, 5, 7 stocks up, 23 down. The saving grace today was Apple, Microsoft. And I will say Home Depot bounced $8. Why? Lower rates, housing related, but even that was up much better and fell back. And there's your story. I don't even need to go too much further because I scanned 3,000 stocks today. How do you scan 3,000, Gary? I did it twice. It's so narrow on where the strength is, and it got narrower today. And by the way, the AD was not bad today. But when I do my scans, I'll say, okay, so that one was up, but it looks like crap. So it does not go into the win column, except it had an up day. What we are looking for here are launching pads and rallies. Apple was a launching pad yesterday. The move it's made is ridiculous already for the size of company, and that's why it came in at the end of the day. We'll see what tomorrow brings. And the semiconductors just raked a big wow. And now another 10-for-1 stock split. I wonder if Broadcom would be up like it is without that 10-for-1, but we're getting a bunch of those now. It's a little bit now of follow the leader. I think Amazon did a 20. NVIDIA just did a 10. Soon Chipotle is going to have a 50. Now Broadcom's going to have a 10. That NVIDIA that I was worried about, doing the 10-for-1, so far so good. Yay. There's your story. If you own oils, you're not happy. If you own managed care, you're not happy. If you own transports, rails, truckers, and all that crap, you're not happy. If you own commodities, you're not happy. If you own China, bigger pullback than I even thought, you're not necessarily happy. And any other areas that we think stink, you're not happy. By the way, housing bounced today, but you're not happy. If anything changes, we will let you know. We'll see what Broadcom does for the world tomorrow. But if it's only up because on a 10-for-1 stock split, we'll see. We'll see. There's your story. And by the way, nothing personal when I discuss Jay Powell and these people, but they are the most overrated. They're all overrated, ladies and gentlemen. Look what they've done. $35 trillion of debt. Let me finish up this segment by saying GameStop was down another $5 today. And we hope you are not involved on the downside. We hope you were involved on the upside. And we remain stunned that anyone would follow that clown. Up next, news of the day. Whatever else, I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
You're listening to
What are we waiting for?
Well, what are you waiting for?
1, 2, ready, go.
Action!
Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum.
All right. This goes hand in hand with the problem. Everything is about getting reelected the day after one's elected. So, here's the preface. All racism should be kicked in the nuts. We believe everyone, as long as they live within the rule of law, if you're a crook, little different story. Everyone should be treated equally. And I remember when the George Floyd incident happened. People were going nuts. The politicians were going insane. All of a sudden, we were all racist. You remember that? We're all racist against blacks. The cops are racist. You remember all that? The politicians came out and generalized us. Not the racist people, but us. And they didn't let up. They didn't let go. There were some cities that abolished a lot of their police, and of course crime picked up. We are now seeing video on a subway car. A bunch of these terror-loving, Jew-hating animals. One man stands up and says, "Any Zionists on this train, we're giving you a chance to get off now." They bloodied up the homes and the front doors of synagogues and homes of Jewish teachers. They're blocking Jews from walking around free wherever they want to walk around, whether it's on campus or not. They're in front of the White House, death to Jews, holding up a bloodied head of Joe Biden, wearing "We Love Hamas" shirts, and threatening to murder Jews. The media is reporting none of it. They've gone on snooze. I'm waiting to turn on the national news to have them report this stuff. Nothing. Nothing. I'm waiting for the President of the United States to come out like they did. Nothing. Yeah, we don't like anti-Semitism. It's not good. Nothing. And this is just indicative of them all calculating what should be said or not said based on an election coming up, not giving a crap about what's going on. And I may get an email, what does it have to do with the market? Well, these are the same people that have taken us to $35 trillion of debt. I can go on and on. Imagine if the Ku Klux Klan entered a New York City subway in their robes and yelled out, "All blacks get off the train, or else." I got news for you. I would stand next to the blacks and protect them. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. So this selectiveness, is it going to be you next? That's the question. Is it? You know, in Nigeria, they're executing Christians. Have you seen any protests? In Haiti, they are eating people. Have you seen any protests? In Russia, they are murdering Ukrainians and raping the women. Have you seen any protests? In North Korea, the guy takes Hellfire missiles and kills his own family and starves his own people. Have you seen any protests? In Syria, Bashar Assad mustard gassed his own people, 500,000 plus, and that's the count they have. Any protests? China estimates 1 million Muslims packed away. Any protests? Nothing. Biden and the rest have decided, let's be as quiet as we can be and just selectively come out, oh, you know, what kind, we no one liked it. We're just reporting the news. I dare any of you to turn on the TV to any national news and watch them not report this heinous stuff going on in our subways, on our streets. We were told it was a hate crime. It looks like it's only a hate crime for select groups of people. That's what it's looking like. I have told my sons if they go on the subway, watch themselves. And be very careful. I don't think I'd be that careful, because if somebody on a subway asked if there are any Jews, I'd stand up and say, I'm a big Jew. What are you going to do about it? That's what we're now up against. Have a great evening. Drive carefully. I'll be on with Varney and Company tomorrow, 10 a.m., Fox Business Network. Sorry to harsh you, Buzz, but we deal in reality here. And when you get home, do like we do. It's quite simple. Make sure you hug your family. Make sure you hug your children. They will feel better. You will feel better. I promise. Stay well, be well. Serenity now. I should have ran for president. Good night, all. Bye-bye.
This has been Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum on BizTalk. To listen to past episodes or to get in contact with Gary, go to GaryK.com. That's GaryK.com.